Evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, September 12th, 2023 Tarrant Health Department Advisory Board of Health meeting. All members are present. The first item on the agenda is the review and approval of the June meeting minutes, which were sent out previously and is attached to this meeting invite. Any changes to the minutes? All approve. Unanimous. Great. Second order of business is report from the director. David, go for it.
I'm going to try this again. I know last time I wasn't too successful, but can you see the notes? This time it worked?
Third time's the charm.
Excellent. All right. So I'm pleased to inform you all that we are moving forward to with hiring, or at least advertising, for a position for a new full-time sanitarian. The ad is up now, and closing date is September 14th. We have received at least one application, which I'm very pleased at. The applicant is very well qualified for the position, so I'm hoping that we can at least move forward with that really quickly. But as I said, we're finally able to move forward with that, and that's good news. I continue and will continue to advocate for a new position, being the Assistant Director of Health. So we'll see how that goes. But first things first, I would like to get the sanitarian on board, and hopefully one that can go right to work, because we've got a lot of things going on right now. So any comments or questions about the department reorganization at this point? We're going to have to do some in-office reorganization. We don't really have a place for this person. That's or we're going to have to move some of our part-time people around. Space is a premium in town hall, so that's something that we're going to be working on.
David, the closets are all used up.
I think Joan got the last one out in the hallway there. So yeah, so we'll figure it out. Our star plan review person, Lori Romick, who's been so important and so critical and so helpful during our transition to the FDA food code, and also who has been the person that has been doing our plan reviews for all the new facilities, both cosmetology and restaurants, has finally provided us with her end date. We were hoping that she'd stay on till the end of the year, but due to family issues and matters that she needs to address, her last day will be the 28th of September. So that, again, just kind of like hastens the need for us to get somebody on board as soon as possible, because these new facilities are coming fast and furious. New places are opening. We've had places closed that want to reopen, and plan reviews that need to be done. So it's constant. So anyway, we're going to miss Lori. Her professionalism and her knowledge level is she's an expert. She truly is an expert, and we've been lucky to have her for the time that we have. And I'm happy that she stayed on, because she initially retired, and then we convinced her to stay on and do plan reviews from home during COVID. So that was great. No more. So we move on. Anyway, Mindy has, in working with Channel 79, has completed a video that is kind of it's an overview of what sanitarians do for the local health department. And I encourage you to take a look at the video. I don't think I can bring it up here. No, I was challenged enough just to get the notes on. I can't bring up the video too, so my apologies. But it's a 2.5 minute video, but it's a really good overview of the environmental programs that the sanitarians do. And Kevin, I think that our trailer, the Pod in the Box, is on its way.
That's the rumor. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll believe it when we see it.
At that point, Nick and I will then reconnect to when we first spec'd out most of the stuff that went in the trailer was, believe it or not, almost 2 years ago. Well, it's actually 2 years ago. So we'll have to kind of reprice some of that stuff and perhaps do some decision making on if we buy all the stuff depending on what the prices are now.
Yeah, we received also email, and I'm not sure if you were on it, from finance, from Jennifer in finance, asking for an update for funds spent and also POs as necessary for any purchases associated with ARPA funds, which is what this is coming from, as you know. So that's coming. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to mention about staff here is Mindy. There's been an employment reclassification for Mindy, as the town did a survey of surrounding what professionals are getting in other communities, and she's been reclassified from sanitarian to senior sanitarian with an adjustment in salary, and that's also to accommodate an adjustment for salary that we believe is going to be necessary to hire somebody. So our department wasn't the only one that was involved in this reclassification evaluation that was done by HR. It was something that's been kind of lurking for the past 15 years or so. So there were other departments that were also had some readjustments done, but I'm very pleased that Mindy's efforts have been recognized, and she's got an upgrade in salary, and we're also have a little bit more money to work with respect to hiring somebody. So I'm happy about that. Any questions or comments about staffing issues? All right, so we'll retain our part-time food service inspector. We have our part-time nurse. We have our part-time emergency preparedness individual, Nick, and hopefully we'll be getting the full-time sanitarian on soon. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to have somebody to do plan reviews right away. We may have somebody that can step in temporarily, but I'm not sure about that. So we'll see. Okay, so new developments. As you know, there are 3 major developments occurring in town. Along with those 3 developments, there have been a lot of restaurants and quite a few also cosmetology salons. In less than a year, we have had our fingers in on at least 25 new establishments. That's in addition to all of the facilities that we've had all along. And the workload associated with that is substantial because it involves plan reviews, somebody at the door. But we have plan reviews and inspections and revisions to plan reviews and comments and a lot of back and forth. And then when we go out and do the inspections of the facilities while they're under construction, we find that things aren't being done in accordance with the plan. So it's very time consuming with these new establishments. And again, that only underscores the need to have that other full-time sanitarian here to help do this work. We've also had I wrote in the notes here that there are 5 food service establishments that have closed and plan to reopen. It's more like 8. 8 places have closed and are in various stages of renovation to reopen and plan review. So, you know, I think one of them is, you know, it's the Sugar Bowl downtown, and I'm sure everybody's noticed that. Melting Pot, Jennifer's Kitchen down near Rowayton, and there's my list here. Pasta Vida has closed. Green and Tonic is closed. They're going to reopen. Tangda is going to be reopening. Fons, which used to be Steam, has closed. So, and they're in the process of renovating and reopening there as well. So these are major projects. They're major projects for us to be involved in addition to maintaining and keeping up with our regular inspections. You know, but we knew this was happening, and we met with the developers for the project that's near Palmer's to start working on an overview of what they're planning on doing, and they're putting in at least 4 new restaurants over there, 4 different food service facilities at this point. And of course, there's that whole project where the Bank of America used to be, which is going to also have a fair number of food service and salons in there. So we're going to have our hands full for the next few years just with that. And we really need somebody who understands how to do plan reviews in the course of these projects as they move forward. Thoughts or comments on that before we move on? All right, so the community health needs assessment. We have entered into an agreement with a company, Ascendant Healthcare Partners. We've sent out survey forms to what we have identified as community partners, including the schools, the town agencies like Senior Center, Youth Commission, Human Services, local clergy, the Y, the Depot, Police Department, Post 53, and Silver Hills. Each one of those, I'm pleased to say, everybody that we reached out to ask, to request to participate in this community survey form has, in fact, done that. So we're in the process of compiling their information, and then we'll move on to some more community involvement piece. Initially, when we started this, we're doing this under a grant, and the grant initially had an expiration of March of 24, and that's been extended to at least, I think it's the end of June 24, and then, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even further. So that buys us a little extra time to get this completed, because March is really ambitious at this point, being that we're really halfway through September already. So pretty excited about moving forward on this, try to get a handle on, you know, what's happened, maybe, you know, compare things before and after COVID. It's interesting to see that some of the post-response reports seem to show a lot more psychiatric responses currently than we did 3+ years ago, but we need to quantify that. So that's part of what we're going to be doing here. Thoughts or comments on that? Any suggestions how we move forward? I know, Christine, you were involved in a couple of our meetings, and I don't know if you were aware of some of the delays that we've encountered due to some health issues associated with those that are with Ascendant Healthcare. So we've missed the last couple of meetings. So, but I believe we should be starting up again within the next week or two. Again, depending on circumstances beyond our control. But we'll be in touch with all of you and let you know when those meetings start up again. I know, Andy, you indicated that you had wanted to be involved as well. So we'll keep you all posted if you want to sit in. Our beach water sampling program has concluded for the year, even though it's still warm out. We tested every week between Memorial Day and Labor Day and never had any real exceedances in bacteria. Although our protocol is to close the beaches after we receive an inch of rain. Typically what that means in the course of the summer in past years, 2 to 3, maybe 4 days of closures in the course of the summer. I count 7 for this year. It was a wet summer. We've had some serious downpours. Fortunately, we haven't had the severe flooding that we did a couple of years ago associated with these rainstorms, but they've been significant and they've been over an inch. So we had a couple within the last few days as well. But I'm speaking with the Parks Department. There's no lifeguards there any longer. And there's really, at Pear Tree, there's nobody to post the beach to say that there's, we had over an inch of rain. So basically our protocol has been to close the beach with more than an inch of rain. We'd like people to have that information and know that, so that if it's after heavy rain, don't go swimming. But at this point, there's no official posting at the beaches with respect to that. And the hotline has been established to set up to say, we're basically done with the swimming season for the year. See you next year, 2024. COVID. It's back in the news. We do have test kits. We did get some new test kits. So if folks are worried about whether they've or been exposed to COVID, we have test kits that we can give out for free while supplies last. We're not planning on any clinics at this point because, again, there are plenty of outlets nearby. If there becomes a real need for us to do the clinics, as we spoke last year, we certainly can stand up clinics because, as we showed last year, we know how to do it. And so we can do it. We will do it if we need to, or if there's a demand for it. But right now, we all have our fingers crossed on that matter. We are tracking cases. I can say that the last report that we circulated was in May. There were 3 cases in May. There were 11 in June, 2 in July, 8 in August. And so far this month, 3 positive cases that have showed up in the state system. Of course, any home test kits we don't know about. But what we're doing is, I think that's important for us to track anyway, just to watch for trends, and in particular with, back to school. We've already met with Dr. Adley and Dr. Kennefick from the schools. So we have our channels are open. We're ready to speak if, we need to have any kind of response to concerns. But at this point, we think everything's looking pretty good. Thoughts or comments? Okay. Other business in the news this summer, there was quite a bit of concern raised about flesh-eating bacteria and virus and Vibrio. And there was some very, I'll call it sloppy reporting and done on that. And in that, there was some concerns raised about a link between a couple of fatalities and shellfish. And while Vibrio can be transmitted through shellfish, and there was one individual in Connecticut that apparently did contract Vibrio from eating shellfish. It wasn't from shellfish caught in Connecticut or in Long Island Sound. People on both the New York side, because that's, you know, I'm also watching what's happening on the New York side of the Sound. There have been cases over in New York as well, but they're all associated with people going in the water with cuts and wounds, open cuts and wounds. And so that's who've been really affected the worst with these, as they call it, flesh-eating bacteria, because the Vibrio gets into the open cut. And that's where you get the kind of deterioration of flesh. So the advice is, if you have a cut, don't go in the water, or make sure you put a waterproof bandage on. If you get cut while in the water, get out of the water and wash it off really well, and don't go back in. I did reach out to the media, and also there was some misinformation with the State Health Department and Department of Aquaculture with respect to the information as it pertains to oysters. We sent notices out to our permitted people who have recreational clamming licenses here in Darien, to let them know that if you're out there, if you get caught, make sure you get out of the water, treat it well, and if you're harvesting the oysters, put them on ice right away. Keep a cooler out there for when you're harvesting. So, we did reach out to our permit holders. Earlier this summer, I think it was the last week in July, we were notified by the State Health Department. We have two West Nile mosquito trapping stations that Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station collects mosquitoes from on a regular basis in town. And in July, one of our locations, they found mosquitoes that tested positive to West Nile. And just today, I got a phone call from the State Health Department that the other station, they have found positive mosquitoes for West Nile virus at our second station. This is not unusual. It happens every year, and it happens all throughout this area. So it's not unique to Darien. And I can say, we haven't had any local cases of West Nile virus. And as far as I know, as of, I believe it's yesterday, there have been 2 cases of West Nile virus identified in Connecticut, neither of which were, did not result in fatalities. The standard advice is wear mosquito repellent, avoid going outside at dawn and dusk, because that's when the mosquitoes tend to bite the most. Try to drain those stagnant water areas in your yard. Make sure your gutters on the roof and on garages and so on aren't holding water, because those are places that people tend to forget about when they're thinking about ponded water and stagnant water. And with all the rain we're getting and the fact that it's staying warm, I think we're going to be seeing mosquitoes for a while yet. So again, repellent, long sleeves, avoid being outside at dawn and dusk, the standard advice. Tilley Pond. We've had Well, we were notified by the fire department that they'd been getting calls from residents in the area where they'd been concerned because they thought they were smelling natural gas in the air. And so anytime the fire company gets a call that's related to natural gas, of course, they have to go out and investigate. And they go out with the gas company. And there were repeated calls over the past few months, couple months, about odors and calls from residents concerned about this. And so finally, they got in touch with us. We went out, and there's a lot of algae in Tilly Pond. And the algae in Tilly Pond is the type of algae that will off gas and smell like gas. That's one of the kind of the side effects of it. And so what we recommended to the Parks and Rec was to shut off the fountains, because the fountains are aspirating the gases and maybe contributing to the fact that it can be smelled in various areas, depending on which way the breeze is blowing. It's important to realize that the gas company and the fire department did a complete survey of the perimeter of the park, the whole business district downtown, all the businesses, and determined there is no gas leak. So that leaves the algae as culprit. So you shut off the fountains for a couple days and no calls. And for whatever reason, the fountains were turned back on a couple days later, and instantly 2 more calls went in to the fire department, which pretty much concludes that those fountains are really contributing to the odors in the area. So fountains are off, and they're going to stay off. And again, like with the mosquitoes, when the fall comes and cold weather comes and the rains come, it should go away again. But this is a common problem, and it's happening throughout. Well, it's happening in ponds and lakes throughout Connecticut, and not just Connecticut. So we're just lucky here that we don't have our swimming areas where this algae is, because this algae can be really irritating to skin. It can be toxic to the extent where people can get sick if they swallow it, and dogs can get sick. So there are signs now down at Tilly Pond advising people to keep the dogs out of the water. Because of the nature of the issue, I was contacted by Channel 12 and did an interview with Channel 12 right after the gas complaints were acknowledged. So hopefully the message is out to folks not to worry about the gas. But again, if you smell gas, please call, because better to be sure than have a disaster. But right now, we're quite convinced that the odors in that area are from the algae in the pond. Any questions on that? Because that was a pretty big concern. Those actually, the Vibrio and the algae were pretty big in the news there for a bit.
David, is there a way to control the algae without using the fountains?
Well, it's a problem everywhere, and it's part of it's warm water. There's nutrients getting in there, whether it's from fertilizers or natural.
Mm-hmm.
The stream brings in leaves and organic material, so it's common. You drive around and our ponds in town are choked with algae, and they're choked with algae because they don't have a really vigorous flow through. The water's warm, a lot of nutrients, both natural and induced through fertilizer. I think one thing that is that, residents in town and elsewhere really need to be cognizant of the use of fertilizer and runoff and getting into streams and, try to minimize that as best as possible. But maybe dredging the pond. I don't know about putting in chemicals. I know that there's companies that say you can, copper sulfate it. And I know that they do that in reservoirs, but I don't know to what degree we would want to do that there. That's a call for, we can discuss that after the season.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And this is the time of year that we're doing our cosmetology salon permit renewals. There are, from last year, there are four new places that have opened. And we also had done a booth at the farmers market where we offer tick removal kits, free blood pressure screening, and a whole bunch of other tips and comments and advice on public health matters to the residents and anyone who cares to talk to us. And that is my report. So I know you had a question for me.
Yeah. About the arsenic contamination at Great Island. Can you keep an eye on that?
I'm sorry?
Can you keep an eye on that?
Yeah, and in fact, I think that my understanding is that it's a byproduct of years of using pesticides on apple trees. And that's a common issue in Connecticut in wherever there were orchards. But as far as remediation and remediation plans, I haven't been involved in that, but I can certainly ask to be.
That's good. Just need somebody with some professional experience. Keep an eye on that. We got a lot of money invested over there.
You sure do.
We won't want the bonding company to say, we're going to take the bond away because we're contaminated.
Yeah, like I said, my understanding is it's a byproduct from years of, and it's really not uncommon in Connecticut to find areas that have arsenic levels that are problematic. And there's a whole bunch of different ways that problem is addressed. So we'll see how they do it here.
How do we know if there's any danger, human danger, right now?
Well, I guess it would depend on, if it's where it is, unless it's stirred up, I don't know that there would necessarily be any real danger to it. But it's in the soil. So question is, do you tear up the soil? Do you mix it? One of the remediation plans that when I worked in another area that was suggested for this was to kind of dig the soil down 3 feet and just stir it. In essence, you get it below whatever the hazardous levels are by mixing it. To me, that's not a great way of dealing with it, but I don't know if you don't want to truck it off site because where you're going to bring it. So yeah, it's tricky business. So we'll keep an eye on it and see what they're going to do.
One thing I know, David, is that the tenants that all are renting there, they've been told absolutely no gardens. They're not to do any digging. So I think everyone's on notice who's there now.
Yep. That's the deal. So just don't dig up the dirt until you figure out exactly what to do. And I know that one of the conversations was there's certain kind of plants that maybe would extract the arsenic, but then you obviously, if the plants are extracting it, then you cut them and you have to deal with where you're going to put the cuttings from the plant. So I don't really know what the remediation plan is there, but I'll do my best to find out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or issues? Okay, that's it for the formal agenda. Our next meeting is Tuesday, the 12th of December at 5 p.m. We will send out a Zoom link. Otherwise, we'll take a motion to adjourn. Anybody? Looks like it's unanimous. David, thank you again for all your time.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.